What's going on, guys? My name's Spence,
And I'm Mitch.
and we're two brothers who really love King of the Hill. And today we are talking about the first episode introducing Hank's frenemy and rival, and of course, the only Laotian characters that you probably know in any media ever, and that is the Supanusenpone family. The guys are shocked because this is late 90s, early 2000s Texas, and I'm pretty sure the guys aren't really used to meeting a Southeast Asian family on the block. They're probably not very familiar with the culture and don't really know anybody beforehand that they could relate to.
It's completely alien to them, you're right. And the reaction from Hank and his buddy is absolutely comical by today's standards.
Yeah, it's hilarious. It is definitely a little bit of a throwback because you get probably one of the most famous lines in King of the Hill at any point when they go and introduce themselves to the Supanusenpones. And they ask first off if they're Chinese or Japanese. And when they talk about that they're Laotian, it doesn't register.
So are you Chinese or Japanese?
I live in California last 20 years, but first come from Laos.
Huh?
It's a landlocked country in Southeast Asia. It's between Vietnam and Thailand, okay? Population 4.7 million.
So are you Chinese or Japanese?
They don't have any comprehension. And then Hank, being the fellow that he is, always appreciating a good handshake, ends up crushing Khan's hand.
With the legendary blue collar handshake. I myself have crushed many hands with it.
It's definitely a point of pride. I could tell when I've shaken somebody's hand if they've got some sort of blue collar background almost instantly.
You can feel the calluses.
I would like to think that we have evolved from our early 2000s, late 90s counterparts, because now today I feel like most people would recognize China, Japan, and Korea. So we've got one more country in the mix.
Us King of the Hill fans will always register Laos.
Yeah, I was going to say Philippines too. Filipino culture has definitely become a big thing.
Filipino women fleecing elderly white men.
One thing I really appreciate for King of the Hill is that they want to have a bunch of foils to Hank, and one of them being I guess you want to say like cultural foil to compare against the white Texas background. And I really appreciate that they not just went with an Asian family, something that would probably be very unknown to Hank, but like a totally out there Asian country in the form of Laos. One of the things about me is I'm a bit of Asiaphile. I love culture and history across the globe, but I just happen to have a great appreciation for all of the countries of Asia. I speak Japanese. I've been to Japan a couple times, and I've always just really appreciated everything about the Asian culture and perspective. One thing I'm going to throw down now is a couple of Laos facts, because Laos is an interesting country, and I think a lot of people maybe only know about it from King of the Hill, and just a couple of random things about it. That Laos, of course, is a country in Southeast Asia. It's landlocked and it borders Vietnam and Thailand. Vietnam is its big daddy, basically. Papa.
Big Daddy Vietnam.
Big Daddy Vietnam. They subjugated effectively Laos in the Vietnam War. They forced them to sign this great treaty. It's called the Treaty of Friendship and Cooperation, and basically signed over a huge amount of Laos's political rights over to Vietnam. And since then, they've been very closely tied together. For example, Vietnam is allowed to post troops in Laos, their militaries, coordinate, all that good stuff. Although these days, China's trying to get in there too, trying to pull Laos away from Vietnam's grasp. But overall, it's one of the few communist countries left on the planet. It's been basically having a puppet government installed by Vietnam. And it also has a tiny population in comparison to its neighbors, which kind of makes it vulnerable. Laos only has about 8 million people, whereas Vietnam has 100 million people. And China, of course, has 1.5 billion. They're in a rough neighborhood. They're poised to get pushed around a lot.
The fun fact about Japanese people, according to Dale, they all wear suits, ties, and glasses.
They look Japanese.
Nope, I think they're Chinese.
How can you tell?
Japanese guys usually have glasses and a suit and a tie and stuff like that.
Uh-huh.
Japanese people really like to look good. They believe that the way you look on the outside is a reflection of your inside.
So there's a nugget of truth in Dale's one-liner.
And that's the great thing about Dale. That's why Dale's my favorite character, is because there's always nuggets of truth scattered in between his insane ramblings. But I just want to applaud King of the Hill for putting Laos on the map and making people aware of the country and aware of the culture and its existence. So good job, King of the Hill. Thumbs up. Unfortunately, the one criticism I do have is they don't actually speak Laotian in the show. It's just gibberish. Sad day for all the Laotian people. We're hoping they can understand what was going on.
And it's a bit of a spoiler alert for those who didn't know that all of Min and Khan's Laotian is gibberish. I myself didn't know this until fairly recently as well. I went about 30 years thinking that it was they're speaking Laotian.
Yeah, when I was a kid too, and I first originally watched the show, I thought they were speaking Laotian.
I like at the dinner table how Peggy naturally assumes that Khan and Min eat chop suey, so that's what she makes.
That's hilarious.
It's a bit of innocent ignorance.
The one real winner who comes out on top with the Supanusenpones moving in is Bobby, whose love interest in Connie, on again, off again, I guess, love interest throughout the entire series, basically defines his romantic interests, right?
The big loser is Khan.
The big loser is Khan, yep. And of course we have Min mocking Peggy's feet, and she can't stand that. I just love how they continually bring this little aspect about Peggy's character into the show.
Her big feet. Oh, that's just how God made her. We have Hank sticking up for Bobby after Khan lists all of Connie's achievements, and Hank says, Bobby's got near perfect attendance. And that's Hank sticking up for Bobby. Near perfect attendance is actually quite an accomplishment.
Yeah, it's true. It's pretty tough to have perfect attendance these days. And that's the one thing you can never take away from Bobby. He shows up.
He shows up every single day.
Does he give 100%? No, but he shows up.
But does anyone?
No, definitely not. And the people that say they are fucking liars.
That's right. Bag lickers.
We already have tension between Hank and Khan that's been brewing, but bubbles over here when Doggy tries to violate poor Ladybird's honor, and Hank can't have that.
As we know, Ladybird can only love other purebred Georgia bloodhounds.
We haven't really talked about Ladybird and Hank's relationship.
Ladybird and Hank's relationship is I took over into my life, and I have a little dog, a little female dog who I love about as much as Hank loves Ladybird. She sleeps closer to me than my wife does.
That's where Hank puts all his tender feelings of love and care that he feels like he can't share with the outside world. He just gives them all to the dog.
Where they belong.
That's true. Yeah, the dog can always accept them and will always appreciate them unconditionally.
That's right.
I was just going to say that we saw in the 4th episode where Hank has this weird and natural relationship with his guitar. That kind of falls apart and as the series goes on and gets replaced with Ladybird.
Yeah. This scene of Hank eating pizza always stuck with me too, because it's always, the animation is just so weird.
It is weird, yeah. It is very unnatural. And then, I don't know if people know this, but a lot of King of the Hill's animation was actually done in Korea. They shipped off a lot of the legwork over to them to get it done in a timely manner. And I always wondered how Hank would feel about that.
Knowing that he was in Korea.
And now we have the titular conflict between Hank and Khan. Propane versus charcoal.
Just because I happen to sell propane and propane accessories.
Okay, all right. Go stick tank on the table. Keep napkins from blowing away.
Khan Supanusenpones.
Ah, okay. You honor me by giving me gas.
This is the reality of what happens when you unleash your dog in the front yard. This is a very good depiction. The dog runs away.
They just run away.
Yeah, this is a great depiction of a female friendship here. They try to be civil, but you can feel the passive aggressiveness just clinging to the air.
And no one can just say how they really feel, right? Everyone has to dance around it. And then the realization dawns on Hank that Ladybird is gone. Ladybird is missing. And Dale, of course, immediately assumes that they were cooked up and served as food.
I think this episode would not be able to air today. There's no way.
Yeah, you think do you think that this is a relic of the past that would not make it past
I think
this?
there would be an outcry.
Yeah, someone would complain for sure.
Oh, goddamn bleeding hearts.
There's no poor Bobby, man. Oh, if that were me, I would feel like such a piece of garbage.
Oh, I know. Lost the family dog, good lord. I would never forget about it.
There's no background of Japanese people eating dogs. They stick to whales.
On this episode, it ends with one of my favorite lessons, one that's a bit near and dear to me, and that it doesn't matter what culture, who you are, that we can all find a common ground to stand on because we're all people. And in this case, the common ground that Hank and Con found is disciplining their children.
They may do it in different methods, but at the end of the day, they both go to sleep hungry.
And I'm not a parent yet, but I think you can appreciate that one, Spencer. A little bit better than me.
I could definitely appreciate trying to keep your kids well behaved. It's certainly not an easy task to do. This episode, what would you give it out of 10?
7.5.
7.5? Okay, I will go a little bit higher. I give this one an 8 out of 10. And overall, I think it's a great introduction to a set of characters that will become extremely prominent throughout the show and play quite a large role in the Hill family. And it basically sets off the tone that defines their entire relationship. There are some times that Hank and Con come together and overcome their differences, but overall, it sets off the kind of rivalry between the two.
Con drives a lot of the plot in the show coming up.
You know, the conflicts that Hank and him have they play a pretty prominent role, and they define a whole lot of some of the best episodes in the series. And with that, we'll wrap this up. Thank you guys for watching. And remember we'll see you guys next time.
I'm looking for dog. Sweet, sweet dog. Have big barbecue today and dog run out. All about 20, 25 pounds.
Good Lord, it's true.
Oh,